Well, hello, it's Monday, which is a strange day to be doing Wednesday Whip. It's actually halfway between, or nearly halfway between Wednesdays, and I was a bit busy last Wednesday. I was climbing mountains in Snowdonia on a hot and sweaty day, but it was good because we could see for miles. And this Wednesday, I'll be walking Offa's, a bit of Offa's Dyke, so I might not have a chance to do a Wednesday Whip, so I thought I'd do one now and tell you what I've been up to. So, you might remember, I think I showed you these before. This is the hieroglyphic socks, which are sort of a little lace pattern, and the wool is from Woolly Tangle and the colourway is Silver Birch. And I did these, or started these, several times when I went to Scotland for my holiday. Oh, can you hear the swifts? Anyway, so I have finally finished these. I finally got to grips with the pattern. I do have a little bit of a mental block with lace, as I call it, making holes on purpose. There you go. So you use a chart like you do with Fair Isle and Arran, but I just seem to not get it. Anyway, I got it in the end, and now I have a lovely pair of socks. Da, da, da. So a bit warm to wear those this week, and certainly last week was a bit of a scorcher, but there you go. Now then, I have, as you may remember or may know, knitted a lot of socks, and some of them are getting quite old now, and consequently, especially some of the ones I like wearing a lot, they're getting a bit threadbare. So particularly like this sock yarn is from Muffy and the Squid, and I do like her yarns. She has some lovely bright colours, and I'm a bright colour sort of person. So what I've been doing is I've been patching them. They are. So there's the heel on that one. I've used a slightly different colour. Why not? I've got to sew that in. So what I did there was I picked up the stitches using obviously a double pointed needle, and then knitted, and then used the grafting stitch or Kitchener stitch to close them there. And then all I have to do now is sew along the bottom to make sure that they're there. So I'll see how that works, but it will give them a double layer. And I've tried it on my foot, and it doesn't sit, although I thought you might be able to feel it because it's on the bottom. You can't feel it because your feet aren't that sensitive, although when you tread on Lego they are, or gravel, but a little bump in the sock isn't too hard. So I've been doing some mending. Isn't that wonderful? Make do and mend, as they say. So that's what I've been doing there. So the other thing that I was doing with my leftover sock yarn was I started doing a knitting project. So having done a lot of crochet recently, I've suddenly decided I'm doing lots of knitting. So here is my knitting project so far. Da, da, da. There you are. So each of those squares is made by a double length of sock yarn, because the pattern is for a double knit, so that's double knit there. And so I'm using up lots and lots of different bits of wool there. So I spent a happy afternoon creating, because it's intarsia and you get real carnage with your balls if you didn't make them, making little bobbins like that, so that I can knit without fear of, so you can see them on the back there. So that reduces the tangling that you do, because when you're doing intarsia you do have to wind the yarn around so you don't end up with gaps or holes. So that's what I did. So I'm quite pleased with the effect, and so I've stuck to those colours, or those different balls of yarn, to do the I should have enough to do the whole jumper, but I still have loads of sock yarn left, so I'll have to think of something else to do with them. But anyway, that's what I've been doing. So I was in the garden under the umbrella because it was quite hot doing that. So I'm really rather chuffed with that. I'm going to have to show you that one again. Look at that. Brilliant. That will get noticed, will it not, when I wear that? So just to make sure that my balls don't run away. So finally, because we're going away to do some Offa's Dyke stuff, so you need a little knitting project. Now, we aren't carrying our own stuff, because why would we want to do that? We have done it in the past, but we decided to give ourselves a treat, so we're doing baggage transfer. So it does mean that I can take reading books and knitting projects without knowing that without having to carry it all the way between spots. So in my knitting sock yarn ball, this is there, and I think I got this from Coastal Colours, which is they do lots of hand dyed yarn in Blackpool, up North Fleetwood around there, but they're quite nice colours. So I've started. I always get there. Are. So there's the cuff. So I'm doing cuff down there. So it's quite nice colours, although it is pooling. So pooling is where you get the pooling of the colour. But I think that's going to be quite nice. So it looks blue and pink there and green on that side. So we'll see how that goes. So that will be my knitting project for this week while I'm away doing Offa's Dyke. If I'm awake enough, because there's some long days, some long walks, and although it's cooled down a bit, I think it's still going to be quite hot and sweaty. Anyway, so that's what I'm up to this week. I hope you are, you've been able to enjoy some of the warm weather without it making you feel a bit great time for sitting in the shade and reading or knitting or crochet, or just sitting and talking to friends and perhaps having a gin and tonic, who knows. Anyway, I'm off to go and walk some of Offa's Dyke and perhaps do some knitting, and I will see you, probably not on Wednesday, but probably the week after. Have fun. Bye for now.